Kai Havertz has now joined a list of prestigious players who have moved between Chelsea and Arsenal. You know, guys like Ashley Cole, Olivier Giroud, Petr Cech, Willian, David Luiz, Jorginho. You can keep the list going in the comments. Anyway, Kai Havertz is the latest member of that club after he was bought by Arsenal for £65 million. And this has happened just 3 years after Chelsea paid £62 million for him. So, it begs the question, how did this little German boy become this valuable at the relatively young age of 24? We'll answer that question in a bit, but just quickly go give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on content like this. Now that you're done with that, come with me as I tell you the story of the rise of Kai Havertz. Kai was born in Aachen, Germany, into what I'd like to call a legal family. You know why I call it that? Because his mother is a lawyer while his father is a policeman. You just know he could not attempt to break the law while growing up. Anyway, Kai had absolutely no intention of being like his parents right from when he was a kid. He developed a love for football very early on, and at the early age of 4, he had already joined an amateur local club named Alemannia Mariadorf. But you could say he was something of a nepo baby, because it was his granddad who was chairman of the club at the time. But even though his granddad's connections got him through the door, it was his own talent that took him further. At the age of 10, he moved to Alemannia Aachen, a club in the second tier of German football. And you won't believe how long it took him to move to a Bundesliga club from there. Just 1 year. At the age of 11, Bayer Leverkusen snatched him, and you could say that was where his story truly began. He joined Leverkusen in 2010 and played in the youth system until 2016 when he broke into the first team. He had just scored 18 goals for the under-17s, so the coach knew he was ready for the big leagues. His debut for the Leverkusen first team came in October 2016. He was 17 years and 126 days old, so that made him Leverkusen's youngest ever debutant in Bundesliga history. His record was, however, broken in 2020 by Florian Wirtz. Still, at the age of 17, Havertz got his first Champions League start in a round of 16 game against Atletico Madrid. And you know what happened in the second leg in March? He missed the game because it clashed with his school exams. Yes, the lad was already playing on the biggest stage in world football, but he was still going to high school like every other teenager. What a guy. And guess what? The following month, he scored his first goal for Leverkusen, which made him the club's youngest ever goalscorer in Bundesliga history. That season, he scored 4 goals and slowly cemented his place as a very important player for Leverkusen. By April 2018, he had already played 50 Bundesliga games, and that made him the youngest ever player to make that number of appearances in Bundesliga history. Can you guess whose record he broke? His former teammate Timo Werner. Anyway, in 2018, he became even more important for the club. Halfway into the season, he was the only player to have started every single game for Leverkusen. This lad was only 19. But what if I told you that 2019 was even better for him? In January 2019, he became the youngest player to score a penalty in Bayer Leverkusen history. In February, he became the second youngest player to reach 75 appearances in Bundesliga history, behind only Julian Draxler. He finished the 2018-19 season with a whopping 17 goals, and that made him the teenager to have scored the most goals in a single season in Bundesliga history. It was really just record after record for this guy at Leverkusen. The 2018-19 season was really Havertz's best season in Germany. He finished second to Marco Reus at the German Footballer of the Year Awards. Then, to close out a wonderful 2019, in December, he became the youngest ever player to reach a century of Bundesliga games, beating Timo Werner's record yet again. Anyway, at this point, Chelsea had seen enough. They wanted this youngster, and they were going to get him. So, in the summer of 2020, the London club reached an agreement with the Germans for a transfer fee of £62 million for the 21-year-old, a number which could rise to £71 million in add-ons. That put Havertz in second in the list of most expensive purchases by Chelsea, behind just Kepa at the time. He now sits at 4th though, with Enzo and Lukaku now occupying the first and second positions respectively. Now, how long after his signing did you think it took Havertz to score his first Chelsea hat-trick? Just 19 days. Oh yes, He signed the contract with the club on the 4th of September, made his debut on the 14th, and scored his first goals for the club, which came in the form of a hat-trick on the 23rd of September in an EFL Cup game against Barnsley. So that was hat-trick number what for Havertz? Can anyone guess? Well, it was hat-trick number 1. That was the German's first career hat-trick, and it came less than 3 weeks after he became a Chelsea player. At that point, it looked like things were going to be smooth from there, but it was not the case at all. He tested positive for COVID-19 in November and had to be sidelined for 4 games. On top of that, after scoring his first Premier League goal against Southampton in October, he then went 17 games without finding the back of the net. It was really tough for him adjusting to life in England. Meanwhile, on the international stage, things were looking a little more promising. He made his first team debut in 2018 and became the first player born in 1999 to play for the Germany senior team. By 2020, he was already a mainstay in the first team. However, because of his form in England, his place in the 2020 Euros, which was to be held in the summer of 2021, was a little threatened. Until a little something happened that summer. Chelsea somehow made it to the UEFA Champions League final despite not being favourites, and in that game, it was Kai Havertz who scored the only goal, which confirmed Chelsea as European champions for only the second time in their history. With that, Havertz immediately wrote his name permanently in Chelsea's history books, and all his sins of having a bad first season in England were forgiven. He scored just 1 goal in the Champions League that season, but it didn't matter because it was the most important goal in the club's entire season. He was also selected to go with Germany to the Euros that summer. Havertz would then go on to help Chelsea win the UEFA Super Cup and the FIFA Club World Cup, which, of course, they were only eligible for because of that Havertz goal in the Champions League. The following season, his output improved. He had 20 goal contributions in all competitions and helped Chelsea reach the finals of the EFL Cup and the FA Cup. But the season after that saw him experience a huge dip. He went from 20 goal contributions the previous season to 10. But this wasn't just Havertz though. Chelsea were in absolute shambles in the 2022-23 season, and in fact, Havertz was the best of the bunch, finishing as the club's top scorer that season. Then, with Chelsea trying to sort their mess out in the transfer window, reports surfaced that Carlo Ancelotti was interested in bringing Havertz over to Real Madrid. That would have been such a huge move for the German, but both clubs couldn't agree on a fee, so it fell through. Arteta then joined the race, and then, on the 28th of June, Arsenal were able to successfully steal their city rival's best player from the previous season. Now, we expect that Arteta will be maximising Havertz's versatility and making a beast out of him in the new season. Speculations are that Arteta will use Havertz primarily in an attacking midfield role, but the 24-year-old can also play as a centre-forward, a supporting striker, or even a right winger. So, we expect the German to be moved around depending on what tactic the boss is trying to adopt. But what do you guys think? Who will end up regretting this transfer? Arsenal or Chelsea? Tell me in the comments.